Welcome back to Continental Club Xtra, where we have just witnessed one of the craziest nights of the 2022 World Cup, one of the craziest group endings in recent World Cup history, I think. I'm joined tonight, by Christopher Hamill, having witnessed mainly the Japan 2-1 win over Spain, which means Japan and Spain are through to the last 16, with Japan coming top of the group, having dismantled both Spain and Germany. At one point, Costa Rica we're going to go through as well, but Germany came back in that game, much to the relief of Spanish fans, having witnessed that absolute meltdown in the first half of the second half. The result, though, potentially suits Spain, as they are now on the opposite half of the draw, probably from Brazil, who are expected to go through their group. It means that they will probably avoid they would avoid Brazil if they were to get through against Morocco, who they face in a pretty tasty last 16 tie. Japan will face Croatia. But Hamill, let's get into it.
Absolutely.
Because I know you were not best pleased with the how it went for Spain tonight, especially in the second half.
No, I've taken the loss personally because I was purring about them at half-time. I put tweets out praising Enrique's handling of the youth. I was singing high praises about my sweet prince Alvaro Morata, and in the second half, it all went down the Swanee, didn't it? So basically, my analysis is going to be, some Spanish mud and some Japanese praise here.
Yeah.
I know you had one eye on the Germany game as well, so I throw back over to you for that. But yeah, I mean, the first half, Spain in complete control, weren't they? I mean, across the course of the game, they had 82% possession, 1,058 passes to Japan's 228, double Japan's shots on 12 to 6. But Japan deployed that deep block really effectively, particularly in the second 45, and the chances that Spain were producing were not high quality, particularly when Alvaro Morata left the pitch. Now, before the game started, I liked the inclusion of Nico Williams on the right-hand side. I liked Alejandro Baldi's inclusion. I thought Enrique has been, he's generally great at sort of easing youngsters into the first team picture. And the left flank, the left back position is clearly where Spain need to future-proof it. They see Baldi as the candidate quite clearly. But in that first half, Japan, it was a long contest, 0.11 XG. So just a wild, inconceivable turnaround in the second half. Of course, they scored on the 48th minute and the 51st. Enrique then felt the need to overhaul the team. I think he used all 5 substitutes in the second half. And when he made those changes, he's probably the best manager at the tournament. But when he made those changes, I felt like Spain was... They just didn't look like scoring at any given point. Apart from that one amazing intervention by Yoshida where Ferran Torres nearly got in. I also wanted to flag my indifference towards Unai Simon. I think if Spain go out, I can see them. I can envisage it already. Going out, having dominated a game because of a dodgy moment by Unai Simon. I've not been convinced by him in any of the fixtures I've watched so far. Supposedly in the team because of his passing ability, which, again, I think has left the fullbacks short at times. He clipped it to Balde in this game. I think, is it Doan that presses?
It's Ito that presses.
Ito that presses. Obviously, Doan scores. And Doan picks it up. Powerful strike at goal, but something a top goalkeeper should be dealing with. It doesn't happen. And yeah, I'll move on to Doan in just a second because what an impact he's had at this tournament. But yeah, I like I said, didn't like the Morata substitution. He had 3 shots in the first half, 3 on target, won both of his aerial duels. I think his physicality and his clever positioning, which we saw for the first goal, demonstrated that handsomely, was causing that back 3 that, fast became a back 5, all sorts of problems. And he left the pitch on 57 minutes as the tournament's joint top goal scorer, as Spain's top goal scorer. And I just feel like I would have left him on. But then again, Luis Enrique, I guess, had his reasons, but his substitutes did not deliver for him. Asensio, 3 shots, 2 of them wild shots from distance, with combined for an XG of 0.06, so really low quality chances. Torres, 0 shots, Fati, 0 shots. Now, obviously, you have to take game state into consideration. They were playing against a very, very, very deep block. I feel like I've used the word deep block about 100 times in this game, but that's pretty much what it was second half. And Dani Olmo, really wasteful, and he just started to shoot from distance, and it was really annoying me. Spain looked increasingly desperate. They went from this composed machine that were killing teams, death by 1,000 passes sort of style, to one that was quite frantic in the dying sort of embers of this game. But it's only right we put some shine on Japan. Yoshida, clearance for the ages, like I said. 2 out of 2 tackles won, 7 clearances, 8 ball recoveries, 2 out of 3 aerial duels won. Just super competitive in that back line. A real leader for Japan. Obviously, Tanaka gets the goal as well, but Doan. Yeah. Doan in this game. I mean, 1 accurate pass.
Ultimate clutch.
16 touches, 1 goal. That, my friends, is efficiency. He's actually scored 2 goals now within 3 minutes of coming onto the pitch in 2 separate matches, hasn't he? And yeah, he's contributed to or put up 50% of Japan's goals at this World Cup. Mitoma, very much the same as well if we're talking about impact subs. Only attempted 9 passes when he came on in the second half, completed 7 of them, but still created 2 chances. No. He created 2 chances from 7 passes. I've just been really impressed with the mentality of the Japanese players. They know they're going to sit deep, they're going to play on the counter, and their attacking players just seem ready to seize the moment, unfazed by the occasion, unfazed by the opposition. A really clear game plan, clear structure. Full of praise for them. But Spain have let me down massively in the second half.
I mean, on that, you talk about the mentality, and I think it really does come from the manager, Hajime Moriyasu, because, he's now overcome 2 of the most prestigious managers in world football, in Hansi Flick and Luis Enrique. Let's not forget, these are 2 managers who have, both won trebles, both Champions League winning managers at club level. And he outsmarted them on both occasions. We talk about that deep block, but in that first 10 minutes of the second half, Japan were pressing Spain off the field. Obviously, that led to the Doan goal. But again, and both the substitutions, highly influential in those first 10 minutes for those first 2 goals. So I think Moriyasu has to take huge credit because
didn't take Rio Hatate to the World Cup though, so I'll never ever forgive him for that.
This is why he stayed out of your speech just then. I just realised that.
Huge bias, but it is crazy. They've topped the group. They've been great in moments, but there's been halves of games where they've just been terrible.
Yeah. But in many respects, that is great World Cup game management, isn't it?
You're right.
It is great. I mean, obviously, if things had gone differently, and we get on to Germany in a second, they may have lost one of those 2 games. Having said that, unlucky to lose to Costa Rica as well. But I mean, Japan going to that game against Croatia, I think that's going to be fascinating because Croatia are obviously also a great tournament team, as we saw at the last World Cup. A bit unfortunate actually to get through the group today, weren't they? But nevertheless, let's go on to Germany because that's what people are here to see or to hear us talk about. Yeah, I mean, this is the 3rd tournament in a row in which they've disappointed massively now. They've gone out in the groups of the last 2 World Cups, out in the last 16 of the Euros. Let's also not forget that at Euro 2020, they were, not about 6 minutes away from going out in the groups there as well. They needed an 84th minute equaliser from Leon Goretzka against Hungary to qualify for that last 16 game in which they lost to England. At the last 3 major tournaments now, they've won just 3 games out of 10 and lost 5 of them. And I feel like, it's obviously got to jog the memory to go back all the way to the World Cup 2018. But like with a lot of big teams who come unstuck at major tournaments, getting caught on the break has been a major factor. I was looking back at that Mexico game that they lost 1-0 at the start of the 2018 World Cup. Herving Lozano with the goal there. Got caught out on the break against Korea against Korea 2 games later. I think Manuel Neuer had a bit of a shocker in that game as well. And then against Japan, of course, Costa Rica, caught them out today as well. Neuer again at fault. And this has been something that has been levelled at this Hansi Flick Germany side, that they play a very high line and are susceptible to the break. And when they're not doing it at the other end of the field, that is a problem, isn't it? We saw that against Japan, where Havertz was pretty anonymous in that number 9 role. He then didn't decide to play a proper number 9 in the second game against Spain. Thomas Muller started up there, and then Füllkrug eventually came on and saved kept them in the tournament with that blistering finish. And then he went for Havertz again in this game. To be fair, it worked out. Havertz did score, but it does beg the question, could Hansi Flick have tried a few more things? We saw Youssoufa Moukoko, who's been one of the best players in the Bundesliga this term. I know he's only 18, but he is such a marvellous prospect. He got 1 minute of action all tournaments. Adeyemi, not quite as impressive in the Bundesliga, but another great young prospect, stayed glued to the bench. A little bit more understandable given, Gnabry is there, given that Musiala, fair play, has got, ample amount of minutes. But yeah, I think it does come down to that defence. Süle and Schlotterbeck came into the tournament in poor form. They were both at fault in the first game against Japan, which was the game which eventually essentially knocked them out. But I think also we have to get on to the more trusted members of that side, Hamill, because we spoke earlier about Belgium, about exiting that golden generation, whose last tournament it is. Thomas Muller, now 33. I believe. Is this his last World Cup? Surely it is. Will he make the 2024 Euros that are in Germany? Neuer 36, Gundogan's 32. What do you make about these veteran players? Do you feel like this is their last tournament?
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating. And the truth is, I'm not quite sure, but you look at the spine of that side, you look at Neuer, Gundogan, Muller, and you look at some of the youth, some of the talent they have in and around the squad, and you imagine there will be some surgery ahead of the next major tournament. Musiala, for example, I could see him leading the line in this game. 7 shots, an XG of over 1. He's created 3 chances, I think it was. He's been an attacking tour de force in this tournament, and maybe his future lies a little bit further forward for the national side. And maybe Muller feels like he might be blocking his progress at this point. You could see Thomas Muller maybe bowing out after this because he's not been at his best in a Germany shirt for a little while. Ter Stegen, might be time for him to finally take the gloves off Neuer. I know Neuer had a little remontada a couple of years ago and has kind of been the number one since then, but looked really shaky in this game. That might cost him with regards to his future. And the makeup of that midfield, I don't know, yeah. Gundogan and Goretzka, solid double pivot, but maybe there's something a little bit sexier that Hansi Flick can do with that side. But I want the teams at home to let us know who they want to see come to the fore for Germany moving forward, because my honest feedback is less sure about them than Spain, really. I've concentrated more on the Fioria Roja than I was going to say Dimanshaft, but they've dropped that nickname, haven't they?
They have. They've dropped it. Out of shame. But you're absolutely right. Let us know in the comments below what you make of this Germany side. How do they move on from this? Because like you say, Chris, there's so much potential in this Germany team. I had them getting to the final in my predictions. So, mud for me as well. Or did I jinx them? Maybe I did. But if you enjoyed this video, please leave us a like and subscribe to Eurofootball Daily if you're here for the first time. Thanks for joining me, Chris, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Bye.
Bye.